world is now a small village. You can have breakfast in Africa, lunch in Europe, and supper in the US. If you are incubating any disease, it will follow you all through from breakfast to your supper. So with the people moving faster, with goods moving faster, environmental changes, the climate change, we need to be better prepared to make the world safer.
Airports with their port health services have an important role to play in outbreak prevention and response. They're the main points of entry for people and goods, and therefore also for infectious diseases. The East African Community Secretariat has issued an alert on the expected heavy rains. All citizens are urged to protect themselves against mosquitoes and be on the lookout for the first signs of disease outbreaks amongst animals and humans. As the sun sets, the animals are coming back to the boma from their grazing grounds in Kenya's Amboseli National Park. Jackson is worried that some of his cows and goats may be sick, and he's also worried that some of his family are unwell.
Tumeweza kupata mvua mingi sana, but baada ya sisi kupata mvua tukaanza kuona ng'ombe, mbuzi, kondoo wote wamekuwa wagonjwa. Na tena la kustaajabisha kidogo, yani wanakuwa wagonjwa ghafla. Wale wenye wananyonyesha hawana maziwa tena, ng'ombe wanatupa mimba, mbuzi wanatupa mimba. Watu wameanza kuadhirika, wameanza kuwa wagonjwa, lakini kama anashika yeye, joto iko juu. Hata kuna mwingine wa jirani amerudi leo huko kwao, kidogo tu hata amekuwa mgonjwa.
This region, whenever we've got rains, we oftentimes get outbreaks of Rift Valley fever. But this time round, we have an outbreak that's way beyond the normal proportions that we usually have here. And as you can see, most of our pastoral farmers have been really affected. They are losing their animals. Animals are aborting. And to a great extent, even the human population within this particular area has been affected.
Patients complaining of high fever and severe headaches have been admitted to the health centre. One of the patients works at the slaughterhouse on the Kenyan side of the border.
He was conscious yesterday when he came with the same complaint, but today the patient condition is worsening and we are concerned that we may lose this patient.
The EAC Secretariat has a coordinating and advisory role for partner states when it comes to cross-border outbreaks of infectious diseases.
We have a duty and it is our mandate to coordinate. But when it comes to cross-border disease, in the case outbreaks, it is our role to ensure everything is well done, and partner states are working together as part of the treaty.
This year, the East African Community Partner States have already experienced a number of infectious disease outbreaks, and the current outbreak of Ebola in neighbouring Democratic Republic of Congo poses a major risk for the region. This is why, on 11th of June 2019, the biggest simulation exercise ever held in Africa started at the Namanga border between Kenya and Tanzania.
The purpose of this simulation exercise is to assess and further enhance multisectoral outbreak preparedness and response to infectious disease outbreaks in the EAC region while adopting the One Health approach.
300 participants from 10 African countries and 16 regional and international organisations and institutions took part in the 4-day simulation.
In this exercise, we have the health sector, we have agriculture and livestock, we have trade, we have tourism and wildlife, environment and natural resource, defense, as well as the community. All of you are part of this exercise, and we hope that it will help to strengthen the multisectoral coordination of our response mechanisms in the country.
These 4 days are the culmination of 1.5 years of joint hard work towards this goal. Together with our partners from the EAC Secretariat and EAC partner states, we revised the regional contingency plan to include the One Health approach. In September, it was mentioned, last year we had a tabletop simulation exercise in Arusha, and in October 2018 we started to plan and prepare for this cross-border field simulation. In June last year, WHO joined us as a technical lead for this field simulation exercise. It was a steep learning curve for all of us, and a lot of capacity was built.
This is a very special occasion to us as WHO, mainly because this is the first time that we participate in a simulation exercise of this magnitude and scope.
The regional EAC cross-border field simulation exercise is a unique opportunity to test our collaborative public health preparedness and response capacities. Every year, the region records more public health emergencies than what is recorded in other WHO regions. A recent evaluation of temporal trends indicates that the risk of emerging infectious diseases has risen.
The Ebola outbreak that happened in Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia in 2014 cost those economies in excess of $50 billion, not to mention the problems it has caused on the population there. The ongoing Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo represent a real risk, not only in the Congo Republic, but also to the neighboring states. Strengthening our level of preparedness and response, therefore, is a real critical, important activity that we must all undertake.
This field simulation exercise will elaborate more on preparedness at communities, healthcare facilities, slaughterhouses, and our border point of entry for the threat of Rift Valley fever, and that there will be an exchange of experiences among partner states and subsequently determine the improvement needed to be undertaken. I now have the honor to declare the cross-border field simulation exercise at Inamanga official launched. Pamoja tutashinda.
The field simulation was designed to test the region's risk and communication strategy and the new contingency plans and standard operating procedures for dealing with infectious diseases.
Now, what is a field simulation? You pretend you have a real situation and you exercise along it. So what we do here is we assume there's an outbreak of an infectious diseases in the EAC region. The disease crosses a border, so it's no longer only Tanzania but Kenya, but it affects both of these countries. And now the communities, but up to the EAC Secretariat, the national level, the district level, the regional level, the communities, they are all engaged in trying to fight this outbreak. In this exercise, they learn their roles and their responsibilities so that in a real emergency, they have an idea of what to do and that they can perform well with the highest effect.
It's really a functional assessment. It's not static. It's really looking You know, you have a plan in place. Does the plan work? And does it work in a scenario, a simulated scenario? And do the people know what to do?
Begin at 12. So they've got 5 sick people on it, so the EAC will then notify the Joint Board Management Committee.
At the exercise control room, a WHO team is coordinating the field simulation exercise.
At WHO, we really promote the use of simulation exercises to validate and enhance preparedness and response capacity. So the purpose of this control room is really to keep the exercise on track in terms of the timing, but also in terms of reaching those objectives, because that's in the end what we're trying to do.
During the exercise scenarios, the EAC Secretariat coordinated the cross-border response from an emergency operations centre at the one-stop border post in Namanga. The exercise is the largest ever held in the region and builds on a number of fictitious scenarios that take place at a variety of locations in and around Namanga, starting at 2 Maasai bomas on either side of the border. Members of the local rapid response team, made up of doctors and veterinary experts, are on their way to 2 farms in Kenya and Tanzania.
Simulation. Kenya farm, correct? Yes, we are set.
They assess the suspected outbreaks of Rift Valley fever and the public health risk connected with it to decide on adequate response measures. The arrival of the rapid response team attracts people from the local communities. As the first patient who was admitted to the local health facility worked at the slaughterhouse, the rapid response team also assesses the situation there. If meat is contaminated, it will pose a risk to staff and consumers. In another exercise scenario, blood samples from sick patients are analysed in a mobile laboratory set up at the health centre. The results indicate a newly emerging disease that can be transmitted from human to human. At the emergency operations centres in Kajiado and Longido, the regional rapid response teams now meet to discuss the situation and decide on adequate prevention and response measures. As public concern grows, a community meeting is held to discuss what is happening and what people can do to protect themselves. Another scenario tests responses at the border when bus passengers, played by actors, try to smuggle meat and milk across the border from infected areas. And customs officials respond to a scenario in which Maasai herders try to bring goats from infected areas across the border. In this exercise, the rapid response team deals with a sick tourist crossing the border en route to the airport. They suspect that she has the newly identified East Rift fever and she's taken to an isolation unit. At the one-stop border post, the Joint Border Management Coordinating Committee meets to discuss the situation and coordinate measures to minimise the risk of the disease spreading from one country to another.
What guidelines can you give us with regard to process of clearance of these animals?
We are normally following our SOPs.
Yes.
In all the exercise scenarios, the participants perform their actual roles and jobs, and the strengths and weaknesses of the response are being assessed for corrective action.
Personally, and I think together with the rest of the team, we've picked a lot. You know, being the first simulation that we're having of this nature, I think it has opened a lot of things that were before not apparent to us.
It has exposed in a positive way the gaps within our system and what we need to work on so that in case of any such emergency response needed, we are ready. The threats of these highly infectious diseases are right next to us. It's not something that we just see on news or we read about. Now that there were cases of actually Ebola concurrently, there are in Uganda, it just made the experience more surreal and more practical.
The simulation concluded with an evaluation to learn from strengths and weaknesses of the response and strengthen future preparedness. Only if all levels from the community to the regional level and all affected sectors join forces and work together closely and in a coordinated manner will we master the continuous challenge of infectious diseases with their ever-changing faces. Diseases do not respect borders. This is why we need to work together beyond the EAC region. As regional economic communities, we have joined forces in the past, but this should not be limited to the response. Our future focus should strongly be on outbreak prevention.